Hey Font Fam! It's Elena, and I wanted to thank you all for coming out and watching this, or if you're watching this archive, thank you so much for watching this archive. Tonight, I wanted to draw traffic to the FontSound YouTube channel because this is where the business is going to be. This is where the presence is going to be. This is where the action's going to happen, where the fun's going to happen. It's going to be on the YouTube channel. And so, wow, I've got one person watching. Woo! I can't see who that is, but if you can leave a comment below and let me know who you are that's watching, I am so excited. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is awesome. This is awesome, awesome, awesome. Let's see, what does this button do? Oh wow, I've got filters. I'm like poking at it and being like, oh wow, hi Ryan Haney. Thank you for tuning in. Wow, I've got like all these cool filters. That is really neat. And then let's see, what does this button do? I've got a share button. Okay. I've got a top chat, and then I've got live chat. And let's see, I can turn this around. You can see the back of the garage. Now you can see me. Awesome. Hi. Let's see, I can share this. I'm going to share this to Facebook. Be connected. Awesome sauce. All right, so I'm back. Here we go. All right, I'm putting these cool filters. So we're not going to see those. What happened? I'm back now. All right. So tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about technology and liturgy. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how the week was. And so if you're watching and you want to comment below, or if you're watching this archive, comment below. I wanted to chit-chat a little bit about things were this last week, and then I want to talk a little bit about technology for liturgy and throw out some questions and see what you guys have to say if you're watching this. So as I always like to do, I like to start out with just like, expressing how the good things of the past week since we last met on Full Conscious Live, which is FontSound's experimental live stream. And then I like to talk about the lows of the week, like the things that didn't go so well. And also just a brief introduction, if we haven't met before, if you're watching this, my name is Elena Brandt. I founded FontSound after blogging for a few years at fontsound.org, which is my domain. I founded FontSound as a social media influencer ministry committed to empowering missionary disciples through sustainable Sunday-centered pastoral solutions. I have an undergraduate degree in music. My concentration was organ, but along the way I got really into contemporary stuff as well. I sing. Then I got my master's degree in religious studies. My concentration was liturgy. And then in just a few weeks, I'm also going to have my certificate from Villanova, our Sunday visitor, in church management. So I'll have all these different like creds, and they'll be really fun because then I can hang them on the wall. But in the meantime, I found that I actually really don't like working in parishes for very long. I mean, I like it for 3 months, 6 months, a year. But then after that, I get emotionally exhausted. And so I founded a business where I can share 18 years of expertise and insight and hopefully partner with other ministries, other resources to connect them with, who's out there, people that need their support, and to connect people with questions with answers. And so that's the deal. But as I like to do, I like to start the show with, things that have gone well in the past week. And so I like to start, and then if you're watching and you can comment as we're talking, I don't wait. I just keep going, and then I stop as I see the comments come in. So it's new to be on YouTube Live, though. This is like different and interesting. Ooh. So, and I'm watching all the bugs hang out on the umbrella light that's behind me. That's why there's that glow. Anyway. Okay, so this past week I was at NPM, which was the annual convention for the National Association of Pastoral Musicians. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. It was so much fun to connect with colleagues. It was so much fun to be in a place where there was air conditioning. It was so much fun to be in a place where I had to walk a lot. It was so much fun to be my dorky self. And I felt like the retired person. I felt old. I can't explain it. Even though I was probably like, towards the younger side of the age spectrum of folks that were there, I felt retired, like I felt old because I saw these, these folks coming up the ranks, but I felt old in a good way. So that was really neat. I had a lot of fun. I reconnected with my best friend who was there, who was like the one who really encouraged me to go. And let's see, what else did we do? I also got to see a little bit of Baltimore. I got to connect with other musicians. I got to meet some of the big names in church music. I got to connect with some of the big names, people that have got published music out there. And then I got to meet some really cool new vendors. If you're watching this and you are a vendor, and you would like me to talk a little bit about the resources that you have, or look at your resources and see if it's something that I would like to promote, please feel free. No shame in my game. I do see that there's a need for resources to connect with their market and for the market to connect with resources. And so if you have, a product and you'd like to connect, no shame in my game. But I did get to connect with a couple of cool vendors, and I'll be posting videos over the next couple of weeks of some of the vendors that I connected with while I was down at NPM. Some of them included, shout out to Simply Liturgical Music, slmusic.org, and slcomposer.org. They're two of the same of Simply Liturgical Music. They're a music distributor, not a music publisher, and I was really impressed with what they had to offer as far as variety and folks that maybe, for whatever reason, didn't make the cut for what they call the big three in Catholic publishing, but folks that had quality stuff just wasn't what the big three were looking for at the time. This is still a way for them to get out there with a major, major organization backing them. And so Simplet has some of the big names. They have like Rock O'Connor, they have Little Trap, and then they have some of the up and comings, like this kid, I think his name is PJ Mooney, who's 17 years old, who's one of the most popular downloads, who's like getting his stuff out there, but they're a music distributor, and they make it easy for folks to share their music with the world. So if you're writing stuff, like I have a friend who wrote a mass setting, and she wrote a mass setting that's in Spanish that is not out there. This would be a great opportunity for her to share her music with the world. So shout out to Simply Liturgical Music. I thought they were great, and they're great because they're also all online. They don't print anything. And I really liked that concept. I also had the chance to connect with Worship Now, the Worship Now hymnal, which is a Catholic contemporary hymnal with a very intuitive layout. They're working on a digital resource, but it's a soft-bound, affordable hymnal, and it's all contemporary stuff, so all praise and worship stuff. Ryan, have I thought about expanding to other distributors and other faiths? Ryan, that's a really great question, and I'm open to it. I'm open to other Christian publishers, distributors, resource companies. There's a company out there called Pro Church Tools, I think. And I really they do daily content about using social media for churches. I would love to partner with them because I think they do great stuff and very practical, free insight. I would love to partner with them. I would love to help them get their name out there. So if they're, watching this, shout out. I would love to. Any Christian denomination has a product that I would stand behind, I would love to. But that's not what I'm here to talk about tonight. I'm here to talk about tech and liturgy. But I do want to go a little bit quickly down the list of the folks that I got to meet this week. So Worship Now hymnal was wonderful because it was an old school concept, and gateway worship is one idea. Yeah, I'll check that out. Thank you. So the Worship Now hymnal I really liked because it was very intuitive design, very clear font face, really nice layout that also will eventually work well for digital resources if they decide to do an online resource. I think they are. I actually think that is in the works. That was beautiful. I was listening to some of the video that we recorded last week and editing it today, and I loved that they had a very simple Catholic Mass setting in there, and that they were aware that this was not designed to compete with the contemporary Catholic resources, but actually to go alongside a traditional hardbound hymnal or a traditional hymnal in the pew, like Breaking Bread or Gather, but to go alongside it. And so I really liked their concept, and they had great energy. So really shout out to them. I also got to play on a Carillon, so I have a video on the channel about Carillons, what they are, and how you can assemble one at home and practice on one. I didn't even know there was an American school of Carillons. Shout out to chimemaster.com because I got to film a little bit and play on one of their instruments. That was so cool. I did a video with Liturgy Training Publications, who has a new book out about catechizing with signs and symbols. Thank you to LTP for letting me do that video. Brooklyn Top, awesome. Yeah, I will check that out too. Thank you, Ryan. So I got to check that. I got to check that out. Let's see what else. Oh, there's 2 people watching. What? Who's the second person? I don't know who the second person is. What? This is so exciting. So I got a partner, like got to connect with them, and then so let's see who else. I got to meet a couple people that compose for Oregon Catholic Press. I got to vlog with them. I got to meet John Angiotti, who writes for World Library. I love what World Library is doing. OCP we know is doing great stuff. I love what World Library is doing too, and they have the best engravings. Like if you want a gold standard for like how to engrave, look at what World Library is doing because their fonts, the way the layouts, they are on point. On point. So if you're a musician and you have to like arrange stuff for your choirs, look at how World Library is engraving because I love what they do. It is so clear and it's so clear and easy. Literally easy on the eyes. They're doing a wonderful job. So World Library, keep it up. We love you. We love World Library. And I didn't really get to do much with GIA. There was a resource that I wanted to check out by Tony Alonso, and I didn't get the chance to do that. So at some point I have to, maybe when GIA has one of the summer reading sessions in the area, I may have to go if they do one in Philly or in New York, and go and get my for music and go and check out what they're doing. In fact, I think I might do that. I think I might go, maybe I'll go to the one in New York. I know they usually have one in New York in like late August. So I'm gonna do that. So that was my week. I had a very invigorating week. Oh, I got to see what Paragallo's doing. About distributors in Nashville. It's a big hub for Christian music distributors. That's not a bad idea too. This is great. I'm loving these ideas. Let's see. What else? So, we made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches at the end of NPM. That was so cool. Like there was a service component of NPM this year, which it was new to me. I haven't been in a couple of years, so I don't know if maybe it's just not new. So my camera froze, but now I'm back. So hopefully everybody could hear me. So that was my week. It was wonderful. I got air conditioning. There was a pool. I didn't go swimming. The gym overlooked Camden Yards. And I got to reconnect with people. That was the best part of my week. I got to hear some good music. The World Library concert was wonderful on Thursday night. The Oregon Catholic Press concert was great. They do great stuff. I got to hear people that I've met and I get to hear their music. And that was so cool. That was really cool. There was some beautiful music. If you get a chance to check out From the Side of Christ by Jerry Chiusano, it's a beautiful new piece that's out there. Also, I think it's called I Believe by John Angiotti. Check out those two pieces. Those are two pieces that I heard at these two concerts. They were great. So that's that. Let's see. What else? Yeah. So that was my week. It was really exciting. If you've never been to NPM, National Association of Pastoral Musicians, you should go if they do an institute, a workshop. Check out the live streams of their plenum addresses. I believe it's on their YouTube channel. I can link that below later on. So that was that. So that was the good stuff. Anybody want to leave comments about, good stuff about the week? Please feel free. The negative part of the week, let's see, what was the negative? The negative part of the week was that I didn't get to go to half as much as I would have liked to. I didn't get as much of a chance. I didn't get a chance to go and look at half of the music. Hear half of the music that I wanted to hear because I was busy tweeting and Instagramming and YouTubing and vlogging and editing. And I didn't get to enjoy the pool. And I didn't get to enjoy like half of the stuff that I could have enjoyed because I was so busy building FontSound and connecting. And this is a full-time, managing my own social media is a full-time job that I'm not really getting paid for right now. So it's a challenge. But I have other stuff in the works, and I also am working on I didn't get a chance to work on the youth ministry resource that I'm working on, that I have 4 or 5 blessings that are in the works, and I have to do like 7 more for that. So I didn't get a chance to do that either. So I'm like way behind on my work. And I didn't play, like, I didn't get to work on any organ music. Uh, but I guess good stuff is that I got to sing with some old folk, old faves, old friends from St. Nick's. That was fun. And I got to, let's see, what else did I get to do this week? Yeah, I mean, that was a good thing, but I didn't get to practice as much as I would have liked to. I didn't get to any clinics or skill building workshops that I would have liked to. Kind of a bummer. Kind of a bummer. So, that's that. That is that. Now let's see what else happened. So that's basically that. So tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about technology and liturgy, and specifically about the use of visual display monitors in worship. This is a project that I am working on. For my diocese. We're working on. Oh, is there a car behind me? I'm taking my driveway. Because it's too hot in my apartment to do this from my apartment. So I'm working on a document for my diocese on technology and technology for ministry, and particularly visual display monitors for liturgy. And so I wanted to share some insight on this in this area, and I will get out my trusty laptop because I have my notes there. Hi. And we'll get started. Southern Baptists are very good in using display screens and projectors in praise and worship. Yeah, and I think this is something that's a little bit newer to the Catholics. And just in general, though, Catholics have a very well developed philosophy, or very well. I'll say very well developed shouldn't be the right word, but Catholics have very strict guidelines about the purposes of worship, and there's a theology behind it, and a philosophy behind it. Some other denominations might not necessarily have, or might approach differently. So, as Catholics, this is a particularly interesting area, but this is also an area where I think that we could learn a little bit from the other, our brothers and sisters in other Christian denominations. So this will be interesting. So Ryan, I mean, feel free to share, your experience with technology in your church. It varies on what their budgets dictate and how the congregations have feedback. Yeah, I'm going to get into that too, because that is something that I think we don't necessarily consider. We could do a better job of considering, I think, as Catholics, about church finances. And we're always operating, I think, from a deficit paradigm, or at least since I've been coming up the ranks, it's always been operating from a deficit paradigm. And then, so that's something to think about. But I'm going to talk about this a little bit. I've been in collaboration with 2 other colleagues, and so that document, the official document, will be coming out soon. But for those of you who maybe watch this, yeah, Ryan, consider visiting other churches in the area some Sundays and take notes. I have done that. I actually, as a freelancer right now, I do get the opportunity to go and visit other places. It's been eye-opening because I've been subbing in another Catholic church in New York City for the last couple of weeks, where they don't use any kind of technology in worship, but it works for them, and so I'm gonna get to that. So I wanted to chit a little bit. I wanted to chit a little bit. Chit chat. Oh gosh, I can't speak. It's late at night. Oh, all these lights and all the bugs. You should see the bugs that are like hanging out on the umbrella light. It's pretty funny. They're like chilling. They're like watching Full Conscious live. It's very cute. And there's no mosquitoes. I thought that I would be like inundated with mosquitoes. I don't know. Mosquitoes must be on strike, or the bats are doing their work, because I haven't gotten a mosquito bite yet. Anyway, okay, so let's get down to business. I am working on this document. I am working on this document for this diocese, and it came out of some questions when I was working in a parish. And so the question is, oops, my mouse is moving too fast. So how can the use of display monitors be used, specifically display monitors be used in worship, and what are some of the questions that this raises, for us? And so the use of display monitors and for in liturgy, oops, I keep moving back and forth, can be used as a dynamic alternative to a printed worship aid. And, when there's a printed hymnal in the pews and that's doing a good job, this can be used to supplement that. This can be used, say a parish downloads something from Simply Liturgical Music and they don't have, the words in their hymnals. A visual display could be used to incorporate other repertoire, because what we have in our pews is often very limited to what that publisher wants in there. So it can be used, if we're using something from Worship Now, or if we're using something from Worship Now or Simply, this is an opportunity to use, to incorporate that. In addition to what we have in our pews, we can use this to display the number of the numbers for the hymns instead of a hymn board. It can be used to display simple artwork, maybe to get people's head out of the books so that they're actually letting the words fall into their ears, to foster the proclamation of the word in a more meditative way. It can provide brief references of the scripture citations, but when something is working well in a parish, this may or may not be something that a parish actually needs. And so that's something that I think I'm specifically talking to the Catholics out there. I think one of my discoveries along the way was that, it's great to explore, and it's great to explore the possibilities of stuff. But if something else is working well, and a parish can afford it, this may not be something that a parish actually needs to invest in. But when there are no printed hymnals, and when it's a large worship site that's built to accommodate like a one mass or one service community, and it would be more economical to go with a visual display than to keep a printed worship aid in the pew, then this is a possibility. Yeah. And so, Ryan, I'm going to get to that comment as well. How does this support the rite that's being celebrated? Sometimes it may be necessary to keep printed copies on hand anyway. So that if there's people that are seated like in a cry room or in a what's it called, a space where this, that might be soundproof for crying children, they might not be able to see it. Choir rehearsals, it may still be necessary to keep copies of a printed hymnal around. But also to remember that every space is different, and so the style in which the content on the visual displays might be presented can vary among parishes. Fonts should be clear and simple and large enough to be viewed from a variety of vantage points. Sometimes a readable font might indicate that the only lines of text that can be displayed in a single, can only a few lines can be displayed in a single slide, and that the colors should have enough contrast, so that they're visible, and those are some of the things that we got into in my own. So that's like really the liturgical area. I mean, is this going to support the rite? Is this really going to, do we need this? Is this going to support, how is this going to support the rite? How is going to this, support the rite that's being celebrated? Is this really getting the job done? Do we need this from practical, or are the resources that we have enough, or do we need this? Because sometimes we get into this thing of, well, this would be good for the kids. This will get the kids more involved. But doing it for the sake of just getting the kids involved, when the kids are no longer kids, who's going to do it? Are they going to, is this some, ministry's going to grow with them? But doing something just to get the kids involved, there are other ways. Hey, hello, each space is different. Wow, okay, each space is different. So the way it's done needs to be customized. Yeah, I agree. That was Mr. Tony Varas. Hi, Tony. Tony's watching. Hi. So, at times, a liturgy, when paper worship aid is not needed, it's is not needed. The monitors should display a black screen so that they don't kind of distract, from the beauty of the surroundings. These should be colors that are harmonious with the decor of the worship spaces, not to draw focus to the periphery either. But is this going to support the right? But sometimes I think in adding things, yeah. And Ryan's saying this depends on what the pastor, the minister of music, the finance committee, the member of the church think too. Yeah. And I'm gonna get to some of that as well, in the pastoral dimensions of this, because there's some best practices as far as design and positioning. But there's other stuff too, and that goes into the pastoral dimension. So does this support the right? Sometimes in adding to stuff, are we taking away from it? Or is this really adding? Is this really improving things? Or in adding to it, are we losing something? So we have to look at, the additive value of this in the liturgical dimension. And then we look at the pastoral dimension of it as well. Does this foster collaboration and point all members to Christ? I mean, is the Spirit, as Ryan was saying, is the Spirit in this? Is the Spirit in this? The implementation or reevaluation of technology for liturgy should look to various levels of pastoral leadership. Are we looking to the pastor, but does this also involve the people that are involved in liturgy? Does this involve music director, cantors, accompanists, sacristans? I mean, does this involve facility staff looked and said, okay, yes, you could hang a screen there. No, you can't. That's not a good wall to hang something on. We can talk. The business manager should be involved in this too, because the business manager should be involved in this too, because is this an investment that the parish can afford? Is this an investment the parish can afford? Is financially feasible for the parish? After we've established, is this really going to support the way that we celebrate liturgy? Then we need to ask, well, is this going to really make things better for the parish? So, quality, the business manager, the finance person should have some input as to where, the areas where finance and quality compromise. What about relationship to architecture? I was talking a little bit about that earlier with, every parish and every space being different. The size and the position of the monitors can be adjusted to meet the need, conform to the space and meet the needs of the space. So there's that, okay. So then, unlike a paper worship aid, there's no standard for display. Many factors can affect the visibility. So it should be considered, oops, I skipped something. In my notes. Sorry, I do read from my notes, guys, because, I have to do that. Otherwise, I will somehow get to talking about the book that I got at Acme last night on a tortoise. Because I just kind of ramble, so I have to do that. Okay, so I lost my mouse. Okay, so the needs of the assembly too shouldn't be neglected, and it's advisable to elicit the input of people who sit in the assembly. And one of my colleagues had a great point, and he said, sometimes it's a matter of asking people what they want, what they're looking for, and give them choices. And so to maintain a sense of focus and direction, sometimes it's necessary to offer choices too. Sometimes it's necessary to offer choices rather than an open listening session. And especially in the first year of implementation, like Brian said a minute ago, technology is changing every minute, and I agree. Yeah, periodically evaluate implementation, and in the installation, leave room for new development. Have some flexibility. Know, okay, well, there are things that we may be able to add on in the future. Okay, let's get the most up-to-date things so that we can build on this, or maybe not, but we'll get something a little bit more affordable, but it's something that has, that we can expand as we grow. But to look for flexibility too in the installation, especially that first year of implementation, to be open, take into consideration any additional feedback, and the leaders of technology ministry should be open, flexible, ready to adapt. The size and the position of the monitors may need to be adjusted, the color schemes, the fonts, other variables pertaining to the content of what is projected on them. This process presents an opportunity to build a forum for communication among leaders of ministry, and then between them, the people who partake in the ministry of being part of the assembly. So that's the pastoral aspect. And how does this foster collaboration? How does this foster unity? How does this lead the community in their worship of Christ? And then we look at the text, the contextual aspect, the contextual judgment. Care should be taken that the system is displayed safely and unobtrusively, given the architecture. Yeah, Tony says adaptability is so important, so adjustments can be made as you're learning. I agree. Care should be taken that this is installed with respect to the architecture, but safely, unobtrusively. Like if there's a beautiful statue or if there's a beautiful piece of artwork, or a beautiful sanctuary, let's not put this right in the middle and be a distraction, be an eyesore. It shouldn't take away from the treasures of art and architecture. The installation should be discreet, unobtrusive, and it shouldn't draw undue attention to itself. Like I said earlier, in adding, are we taking away? Or in adding, are we adding, are we enhancing? A discrete installation in one worship space might require different means of installation in another space of a different architectural style. And so it's necessary, Sorry, lost my notes. It's necessary to obtain the support of those who have an accurate picture also of parish finances to establish whether the investment technology for liturgy is an appropriate use of parish finances. Yeah, Tony was saying something. Tony's asking, what about lines of sight to liturgical actions? That's very specific. I was just saying that it should be unobtrusive and it shouldn't be taking away. But yeah, I think maybe more specifically that it's not blocking lines of sight to liturgical actions, not blocking lines of sight to the altar. I agree. But I think, just unobtrusive is probably very general way of talking about it. I'm flipping through. Oh. All right. But it's also, I was saying, it's also important to have, engagement of those who say, with an accurate picture of parish finances. Yep, I agree, Tony. Yeah, in positioning of screens, I was saying, like, they should be unobtrusive. That's basically the best way that I could say it is unobtrusive. So they're not sticking out, they're not blocking, like you said, lines of sight to the altar. But I'm talking about contextual, looking at the specific circumstances of specific spaces, because every space is different. But looking at the architecture, yes, sight lines, but then also look at the finances too. Initial investment involves a laptop or a tablet device and a backup device. This involves display monitors or screens, a means of projection, and services of qualified professionals. This is one area where you don't want a volunteer coming in and nailing a screen to the wall, because if you have an old building, that could mean, much more, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 in restorations if there's damage to the building. So this is not a place where you want like somebody who's a volunteer to come in and say, I'll do this. Get a professional to do the installation. God forbid something falls on somebody's head because it wasn't installed properly. That's a liability. Tony says, yes, amen, you need a professional. So go to your professionals. There's some good guys down here that do this type of stuff. I can't remember their name off the top of my head. I wish I knew. But they did some stuff at a church up in Blackwood. They did a beautiful job with their sound system, and I think they do some visual stuff as well. Ryan says servers as well in case the computers crash. Yeah, I would say with all of this, if there is a way, and backup servers, yeah, I would say rather than doing stuff that's like, I would say rather than I would say Bluetooth connectivity or old school, wired stuff is great. But yeah, backup everything. Some of these things are affordable, but when you need somebody like Ryan on your team who thinks of everything, and Tony, yes, and Tony, and consult with a liturgist for advice. Ask a liturgist. Liturgists love it when you talk to us about liturgy stuff, because nobody likes to talk to us about liturgy stuff. I shouldn't say that. But it's true. We're kind of like, Anyway, after the means of installation are determined, it's really necessary to build a team of liturgical ministers who can advance the implementation of technology. The team leadership should consist of one or two who are knowledgeable at how to operate the hardware and software. They can be volunteers, they could be staff, but they should have excellent communication skills, and they'll need these skills to train a sufficient number of volunteers. They should also be folks who are open to liturgical formation as well. That's so important. This is an opportunity to form them, but there should be opportunity to form them. And before they go out and do this, no matter how many, good tech skills they have, these should be folks that are open to learning more as well. Because if they're not, you could have some pretty yucky stuff going up there. It's pretty distracting and garish content. A solid understanding, a solid format. And if anybody's interested, a well-trained team is a must. If anybody's interested, I could put some links in the description box below to a blog post with a resource that I have out there on this that I think will be very helpful for anybody who's looking to do this type of stuff in their parish. So, conclusively, I would say that this is the prudent implementation of technology, a visual display screen as a worship aid, can foster those values, those Vatican II values of full, conscious, and active participation. A system that truly serves particular needs of the worship community precipitates input from all levels of the parish, as well as training in both the technical aspects of operation and instruction on the documents which guide the principles of vibrant public worship. Parishes who use projection or visual display as an aid to participation should remain flexible, especially in the early phases of implementation. You be flexible, be open, and what may work one week may not work. Have a backup plan. Always have a backup plan. As technology evolves, we anticipate that, these sort of directives, these sort of instructions, these sort of guiding principles will evolve as well, along with the technology. So, this is not a done deal. But these are some things to consider, to really have a plan before you go and do this, because diving in feet first, it creates problems. I've seen it firsthand in places where, later on it just creates problems. And it just, it can look garish and techy, and it can be distracting and take away from things, and then it causes disagreements. And so my recommendations are, when this is done, to have conversations, get, buy-in from all different voices and opinions, but then offer choices so you're not overwhelmed with all the opinions. Have a vision in mind first, but then get input. But then also, know that this is not like buying a hymnal. This is big. This is a big purchase. This is a risky purchase. Putting a giant 10 by 10 screen up means it has to be installed correctly. Then there's going to be valuable equipment around as well. There's going to be a laptop. You're going to make sure that you have a place where that's secured. There's wiring. There's, the risk of trip and fall. If the wires aren't laid down, properly, or make sure that you have a reliable internet connection, so that there's, a way to tether. There's all these different things that need to be considered. Tony says, what do I think the content of projections should be? And I talked about that at the beginning. There's two ways that you can go with this. You can use this to expand a worship aid. You can use this to expand an existing, a printed hymnal, if you wanted to, use stuff from Worship Now, or from simply liturgical music, or if you wanted to use stuff from, Music for the Soul. If you wanted to use stuff from a supplemental publisher, in addition to a hardbound hymnal, this is a great way to do that. But then if you're simply relying on a display monitor as your worship aid, then it should be the stuff that people don't know. And as soon as people know it, then it can be taken away. So, acclamations, yes. Music, yes. But then once people know the acclamations, once people know the ritual music, then it doesn't need to be posted up there anymore. when something is new, when something's unfamiliar, when something is not part of memory, then yeah, put it up there. But then as people grow, you know, to put. I mean, Tony says, never project something that wouldn't be in a printed worship aid. I would go as far as to say, never print anything that you wouldn't put up on a screen. That's a little bit different. Because it's a little bit different. Because, oop, there's a ladybug on my umbrella light. I'm gonna grab that. I would take that one step further, because with a screen, you have the opportunity to see how the assembly is. Hi Ryan Carlake. You have the opportunity. It's a little bit more dynamic, so you have a little bit of an opportunity to see, okay, well, the assembly is really singing this song. I'm gonna fade out this refrain because they don't need the words anymore. And what is this saying to them too about the value of music and liturgy? It's saying that music helps us to internalize stuff, to make the words part of our spirit, to make them something that's a reflex for us. So I would go as far as to say that there's a lot of stuff to be explored here. There's a lot of flexibility. Ryan says, thoughts on using words on screen versus hymnals. I say this needs to be explored in, as far as your parish, as far as your resources, resources of time, talent, treasure. Do you have the people power to do this? Do you have the finances to do this? Do you need this? Or are the hymnals doing a good enough job? I would say don't just do it because it's a new thing, but do it out of a necessity, because it makes good sense to do. Tony says, so only put the things on the screens that people don't know. Yes, only put the things up there that people don't know. And you can be flexible with this. Once people are singing, I would even say, if start a song that's really familiar, if the people start to get a little bit weak, then put the words up there for the refrain. I think it should be there. It says it gives us the opportunity. I think that it gives us the opportunity to go back to the reason why we sing in church in the first place, which was back in the day in the early church, most people weren't literate. They didn't have words in front of them, so they needed song to learn their faith. And so, do we really need to have the words in front? Do we really even need hymnals? This is a whole other, if we're doing music, really ritual music, if we're doing music that really serves the purpose of the ritual, that really serves its purpose, do we need to have the words in front of us as a congregation? There will always be a need for Catholic publishing. There will always be a need for music distributors and publishers, because folks need to learn new songs. But if we're really using music the way it needs to, the way it's supposed to be used, to form in faith, so that we internalize our faith, the tenets of our faith, there could come a point where we don't necessarily need it. That's I'm being very idealistic. Very, very idealistic. I think that's impossible to get away from this entirely, but we could try. We can, that also means that we need to talk about why we're doing what we're doing. Ryan asked, what about something that's bilingual? This is a great, in a liturgy that's bilingual and a liturgy that's intercultural, this is a great opportunity to get beyond the words. When a reading is proclaimed in English, or when a reading is proclaimed in Spanish, maybe rather than putting, you put a summary of the text up there, but even more poignantly, you could put an image up there. Or you could even put a silent animation up there to go along with the reading. I'm wondering if there's anybody out there that's doing this, that's doing silent animations of scriptural text. Something that's very, that's very respectful and reverent, but like a silent sort of, almost like a pantomime of it. That's an opportunity to use it in a bilingual liturgy. Yes, in a bilingual liturgy, when people are singing things, you could do a split screen. You could do a split screen, or you could do, there's a variety of different things that you could do there. Screens would be very helpful with bilingual. I would agree, just as a printed worship aid would be too. But I'm thinking, what about an animation of a reading that's proclaimed rather than words? Because I think sometimes, I think so much actually, when we get into bilingual liturgies, what do we say? They're bilingual. That's not taking into account the differences in culture. It's not taking into account the differences in approach to spirituality. It's not taking into account so much. You could have two groups of English-speaking people in the same room. And what do I mean animation? Tony, what I meant animation. Something moving, a moving picture. Tony asks great questions. But like, what I mean by animation and animation, if there's not a cartoon, but an animation or a moving picture, a silent clip that animates that reading rather than the words. Because I think we take literacy for granted. And I think we take literacy for granted, and we're fortunate in the United States to have, a 90%, 98% literacy rate, but history wasn't always like that. And so I think we need to say, when we talk about bilingual, we're very focused on language, but there's more to culture than just language. There is so much more, and there's traditions and customs. Yes, something that captures the spirit of the reading. Yes. But I think get beyond the words, color, imagery, pantomime. I don't know. But let's get beyond the language. Tony's like, okay, let's get beyond the language. Let's see what we can do to get beyond the language. I think that projection monitors vis-a-vis hymnals, I think that if a hymnal is working for you and you have the ability to print when you need to supplement, and that's not stretching your budget, keep it as it is. But if you feel the need to expand and explore the use of a visual display monitor, your finances allow it, you've evaluated all of the other concerns about backup equipment, and I am by no means I am not like somebody who supervised a gazillion installations. So, I'm just going through the bare minimum list, and I'm sure there's other things that somebody who's really tech savvy could add to this. Having said that, this is something, proceed with caution here. It's great. It's a great tool, and there's a lot of possibilities that it allows. But if the stuff that's in your parish is working for you and it's working for you well, there are other ways that your parish can be tithing. It can be using money to give to the poor. It can be using money to improve the facilities. It can be using money to do a variety of things. If you're going to see ROI on this, return on investment, by all means, yes. But be very sure that you're going to see ROI on this before you throw all your parish resources into it. And make sure that you evaluate the pitfalls. Like, I know one place where they couldn't get enough volunteers to help operate the system on certain weekends, and they didn't have any hymnals in the pews. So what are they going to do? Be certain that you're going to have a backup plan, and that you're going to have enough volunteers to help you. Where do I recommend this most? In a 1-Mass or 2-Mass parish. I'll say that again. Where do I recommend this the most? In a 1-Mass or a 2-Mass parish. If you're a parish who's getting 1,200 people on a weekend, right, and you have 2 masses, odds are you're going to have enough people to run this every week. If you're a 6-Mass parish that's getting 1,200 people, and your average Mass attendance is about 200, don't even try. Don't even try. Stick to your ordering your 160 hymnals or whatever it is you need to order for your worship site. Stick to that. That's going to be a more affordable solution for you. But if you're in a place where you have 1 Mass on the weekend or 2 Masses on the weekend, then I would say, yeah, this is something that you want to consider.
But I mean, like, I've been in places where they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They had 6 masses on the weekend. I don't even think they were getting 1,200. I think they were getting like maybe 160 a mass, maybe 200. So figure they were getting somewhere between 9 and 1,200. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work because you need to have, 3 or 4 people for every mass, plus a team to prepare whatever was going to be projected every week. And I have a whole thing about how I think parishes have too many masses, but that's another thing for another day, another rant. It's not a rant, it's a brand. I don't know, that's another story for another day. But if you're in a place like, and I know places like this where they build a really big worship site and they have like 1 mass, 2 masses on the weekend, go for it. This is where you could make it work. But if you're going to be in a place where you have, 5, 6 masses, I'm sure it's successful in places, but I don't recommend it because you have to be sure that you have buy-in from your volunteers 52 weeks out of the year. So that's my opinion. The opinions that I'm sharing are my own opinions. They do not reflect any organization that I've worked for. They are the opinions of me. As FontSound, ooh, look, there's a giant green bug on the garage. Oh my gosh, I think I want to bring him on camera. Hold on a second. I'm going to bring the big bug on camera. I'm going to bring a new bug friend on camera. Right back. So the giant green bug just went behind the camera. And there he is. And he just flew past the camera. Tony says, considering environmental concern from Laudato Si, any thoughts? Yes. Electricity. Electricity is often produced by fossil fuel. And green energy, like solar, still requires metals. It still requires, electricity to produce. It still requires a lot. There's a carbon footprint in producing a solar cell. I think that it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. I legitimately think it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. And I also think that people in the paper mills, they need to have jobs too. And the people that lease copiers, they need to have jobs too. Just as the people that install solar cells and the people that work at the electricity plants and the people that mine uranium, whatever. They all need to have their jobs. People that make the screens, I think it is 6 of one and half a dozen of the other regarding Laudato Si. I think that it needs to be evaluated very carefully. And I think that in a place that needs, if you can, carbon footprint of using paper, yes. Maybe not carbon footprint isn't the word, but, renewable resources, using our resources, recycling takes energy too, and this is something that we don't think about. I think that they are ultimately the same. I think that using the electricity is a use of fuel, is a use of energy, to project. There's human energy that goes into preparing PowerPoint, and it's much more, or whatever software you use, and it is much more time consuming to do that than to prepare a printed worship aid. I think. There's much more variables and considerations that need to go in it, and be much more meticulous in going through every slide to make sure everything looks good. I think that it is 6 of one, half a dozen the other. I think that recycled materials, they put stuff out into the world as far as pollution. I think that electricity used. I think that also. All the materials that go into electronics. There's places in Africa where these things are mined, and I'm not so sure that they're mined ethically. So, there's a lot of considerations that go into this, and I think that the argument that saying one is greener than the other depends on your circumstances. If you're in a place where you have 6 masses on the weekend and you have 160 people at mass, making 160 worship aids or having 160 hymnals in stock is a lot more cost effective than installing. It's a small place. It's going to be a small and older building, probably. It's going to be harder to retrofit. It's going to be harder to put stuff in there. It's going to be harder to get people together to help out, to operate this ministry. But if you're in a building that holds 1,200, you have one service, then maybe going digital is the right thing, because it's going to be cheaper to invest in new equipment for this one big space that was designed. It's a newer building. It was designed with a little bit more openness to possibilities. And so ordering 1,200 hymnals is going to be way more expensive. That's like 10 times, not 10 times. That's maybe, 7.5 times what you would order for your smaller place that gets 160, spread out over 6 masses. So I think you just need to evaluate, what you have, on one hand versus the other, in your circumstances. How can we best help people to full conscious? Yes, exactly. So what's going to work? Oh, there's the green bug. He's on camera. Look at the green bug. Look. Everybody say hi. That's the green bug. Everybody say hi to the green bug. He's the stage manager. And he's trying to tell me it's time to go. He wants my attention. Look at him. That is the green bug. His name is Laudato Seymour. Tony's saying hi to the green bug. Laudato Seymour didn't like that. Laudato Seymour's on my camera rig now. Oh my gosh, hi Laudato Seymour. Ryan says one more thing. Ryan says one more thing. All right, cool. What's up? I like to keep this. I do like to keep this to an hour. Oh my gosh, Laudato Seymour, Tony says green like a turtle. Yes, it is. Yes, it is green like a turtle. Laudato Seymour. Ryan, keep in mind there are older congregations. Yes. In some cases, this could be a good thing, because this means that you can vary the print size. But he's saying they will not change in the church. That is true. Nobody, but then any generation changes, I have to say, of every generation, there's going to be resistance to change. But yeah, older folks might not be so receptive. But then I've been around younger folks who want tradition and old school stuff. So, it depends. It really just does depend. But I agree that, sometimes folks might not be so receptive to change. So, yeah, the bottom line is this going to help your people, or is this going to take away from it? And all the variables need to be considered carefully. So, I'm coming up on an hour. I want to thank you for watching this Full Conscious Live on YouTube. And Tony says preparation change can work. I agree. But I am going to wrap it up. I want to thank you, Ryan and Tony, for watching tonight. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to get in touch with me. You know where to find me on FontSound.org. Remember that if you're watching this tonight, to subscribe. The biggest thing that you can do, if you want to be part of FontSound and you want to make this big, the biggest thing that you can do is share this channel, subscribe, and ask your friends to give me a subscribe and hit the bell so that they're notified as well of stuff that's coming back. So please do me a favor and subscribe and share with your friends, because that's the biggest thing that you can do to help the FontSound biz. This is where our I hate to say that our revenue is going to be, but this is where we're going to grow the most. We have the most potential for growth. So Tony's looking forward to next one. I'm looking forward to it too. Yay! So from my heart, from the font of my heart to the font of yours, I wish you good tidings and peace and all that one stuff. Stay cool, stay out of the heat, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye! Oh, and going to Lara Bar. Bye!